Oh wow, would you look at that? Another day, another Ubisoft flop. We don't even have to bring up Star Wars Outlaws or Assassin's Creed Shadows. We can just simply talk about the Prince of Persia. Now, I'm old enough to remember when that game first bumped onto the scene all the way back in the Atari days, a little bit before my time. But I remember when it debuted over there. Okay, let's take that away. It was one of the DOS originals. Okay, and it had a pretty good run in the PlayStation and definitely in the PS2 era. They had multiple iterations and they were wildly successful. I remember playing the first one and the controls being so absolutely borked. That was one of those games that I actually returned the night that I rented it from the rental store because I just hated it so much. But it's a wildly successful franchise. It's just the newest installment, The Lost Crown, with, I don't know, Prince of Persia looking a lot more like Prince of Malcolm X Boulevard. I'm just not shocked, man. You have a naturally diverse character. Why do you gotta give him that haircut? You know which one I mean, that haircut. The one that they give all vaguely brown males and media. It's like, that hairstyle doesn't exist in real life. Like, yeah, you got the broccoli haircut from a bunch of kids that think that perms are cool all of a sudden, but you never see the 3/4 length dreadlocks out there. Just whatever. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown appears to be another sales loser for Ubisoft. What? The game, which was released on Steam at the beginning of August, only had a peak concurrent player count of 1,446. Oh! Previously released on Nintendo Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation back in January of this year. On the 2 months since it's been released, the game only has a 24-hour peak concurrent player count of 217. That's a decline of nearly 85 players. That's not good. Estimates sales figures appears to reflect the poor counts. VG Insights estimate the game has only 38,600 copies, while Player Tracker estimates 53,200 copies sold. To put that in perspective, Play Tracker estimated that Concord sold 20,800 units, while VG Insights says 25,700. And we all know what happened with Concord now, don't we? But that's not where the Concord comparisons stop, because you also have Until Dawn's remaster. Like, that's a game that just, like, it's under 10 years old. Why is an elaborate point-and-click game getting a remaster? But, okay, fine, whatever, because Sony is basically inspirationally bankrupt. They put out another remaster. Okay, fine. But I think everybody's kind of tired with their conveyor belt of recycled IPs because, check this out. Until Dawn's PS5 debut 28% weaker than Sony's 2024 disaster Concord. I beg your pardon? This is from Sean Lawson. While I can't wait to start earning more of those Until Dawn trophies, I don't care. It seems many players out there have no interest in the PS5 remaster. The classic PlayStation 4 horror. Classic? Yeah, sure. Until Dawn, PS5 player count is one of the worst debuts for a Sony game in quite some time. Regardless, we still think Until Dawn deserves a spot in our best horror games on the PS5 list. Yeah, because, hey, if you're making a top 10 and there's only 8 games that are out there, it's de facto going to end up on the list. But here are just some quick hit facts. Until Dawn's debut is 28.6 smaller than Concord's. PlayStation Studios' horror game saw 98.5% fewer players than The Last of Us Part 2 remaster. Oh, small pool of PS5 players could be down to a lack of marketing. Yeah, because I heard that this game was in development, but I've also heard things like you don't even get the full experience of this single-player abomination. Using gameplay data sample from over 3.1 million active PSN accounts. Okay, cool. We've been able to track the debut player count for every new PS5, PS4 game released throughout the year, and I can't believe for 5 years? Heading into the 5th year of the PS5's life cycle, and you're still developing games for the PS4. But this means, yes, Until Dawn is getting fewer players than the game that underperformed so badly. It was completely and totally refunded and the servers were taken offline in less than 2 weeks. Hilarious. So the top 10 single player games of the PS5 in 2004. 2004, man, 2 decades out of date. But yes, the number one is The Last of Us Part 2 remaster. Why? Shadow of the Erd Tree expansion for Elden Ring. Hey, there we go. The real winner. The real winner. Very likely, depending on the studio that you're looking at, and I might do something on those Game of the Years as we get closer to the end of the year. But for a lot of people, and as somebody who has, played the piss out of the game, an actual Game of the Year. And then Black Myth Wukong. I think probably a lion's share of the players are all on PC, but even it cranking in at 4th place, that's not bad. Not bad at all. Yeah, but the rest of those, Sans Stellar Blade, which I hear a lot of people are big pissed about not being included on Game of the Year. Yeah, but here's the thing. If you can get out of pixelated titties and ass, what I hear about the game is it's fine. It's not bad. Definitely not great, though. Like, the characters are pretty ass. The story doesn't really kick in until, 3/4 through. But yeah, I guess Eve's hot. Cool. That's yeah, that's really interesting because up at the top, yeah, you got a remaster, you've got DLC, you've got a remake project. It takes all the way until 4th until you get a brand new IP. And if Sony and gaming was actually having a good and prosperous year, as much as I love Rebirth, it should be a lot closer to, bottom half of that top 10, because we've heard the sales figures and I've approximated it out to be about 2.5 to 3 million copies sold within the first quarter of release. Forget it, it's been a minute, but I'm honest about that. I love the game. It just didn't sell all that well, mostly because the PS5, adoption rate for games is pretty abysmal on the platform. And even still, like, they're out here. Like, they need desperate help because they're just simply mining, like, one IP at this point in time and trying to make it the face of the company. Nobody really likes those Horizon Zero Dawn games. The Horizon Zero Dawn or Forbidden West. Aloy is no Kratos, not a Nathan Drake. Hell, not even a Joel and Ellie, let alone a Sackboy at this point in time. And you're letting Little Big Planet 3. Last time you guys had a hit in that type of genre, with that type of mass market appeal prior to Astrobot, now you're just deciding to let it disappear? Because this is kind of wild. Last chance to purchase Little Big Planet 3 and Little Big Planet DLC from the PlayStation Store. Now, if I look back, from the original, I think I remember playing the first two. I know I don't have Little Big Planet 3, unless I bought it on some Boxing Day or Black Friday sale whim. I don't think so, but anyways. After 10 years of playing, creating, and sharing content in Little Big Planet 3, the game, our entire range of Little Big Planet DLC, will be removed from the PlayStation Store on October 31st, 2024. Now, things like this happen with, like, third-party releases, where you lose the licensing legal rights to certain characters. You can't come to an agreement on things, so yeah, it gets delisted. But this is wild to see a first party title, right? A first party IP get mind wiped from their proprietary store. Kind of strange. Anyone that currently owns or purchases Little Big Planet 3 or any of the DLC before it is delisted for sale will still be able to access or purchase content after its removal. Okay, there's a friendly heads up for anyone in the community or any newcomers that still wish to own a digital copy of Little Big Planet 3 or any DLC currently available for purchase. So this is your last chance to do so. Thank you for your continued support and understanding. Why is this happening? You're telling me a game that got to its third iteration, had 10 years of support, isn't worth the server space? Are you telling me that the AAA studio rot, expands even further than just simply a Ubisoft? I mean, take a look at a game that is still kicking ass out there, 40K Space Marine 2. He's got some insight into this. The dev explains why so many AAA games are failing. Ooh, bloated budgets and not actually being fun? Can we just go with that one? Trying to push a message over gameplay. But let's hear from Saber Interactive's Chief Creative Officer, Tim Willits, shared his thoughts on why so many AAA video game developers are failing. Speaking to IGN, really? Now, Willits first rejected the idea that gamers were moving on from certain genres. I totally agree. He informed the outlet, it's not necessarily the genre that has moved on, because great games will always do well. Oh my god! A developer that actually likes video games? This must have been a very difficult interview for IGN to conduct. Next, he shared one of his core beliefs at Saber that he believes allows the company to succeed again and again. One of the things that we try to do at Saber, and this is a part of my job as creative officer of all of the teams, we have a core belief. What you do every second and what happens when you push these buttons, and that core gameplay loop is so critical. So we focus on moment-to-moment interaction in the gameplay and the feeling you have. And when you adhere to the core pillars, like be the ultimate Space Marine, melee, ranged, swarms, that's it. Oh my god, a developer talking about a fun gameplay loop. Now, recently we talked about Bungie and how, when they were at their peak, with the original Halo trilogy and even into Reach, they did and developed a 30-second gameplay loop where that needed to be fun. Otherwise, the project was just never going to work. It's kind of like how they spent, 3 or 5 years over at Nintendo working on Super Mario 64. They wanted to make Mario's movement fun before they fleshed out anything else. That's passionate game development. That's stuff that you don't see en masse in the industry, and that's why it's failing. He then returned to what he sees as mistakes that other developers make that lead to their demise. And a lot of teams throughout development will overscope games. They look at some other game and just come out and say, oh, we got to do that. Let's add this. We got to do this. And it loses focus on the core, what actually makes the games fun. Yeah, exactly. They're paralyzed in development by their analysis because they see what everybody else is doing in a similar genre and going, oh, we need to have that because we can't take any risks about not having that. They have FOMO in a certain sense, and then they're scared of innovation on the other. It's very strange. Instead, he shares that Space Marine 2 developers and Saber focus on basics. We are not in Space Marines doing things that, well, the swarms are new technology, but there isn't some revolutionary new gameplay mechanic that no one's ever seen before. There are gameplay mechanics that people are familiar with, but we do it really, really well, and we execute really, really well. Wow, somebody who's talking about good practices in the industry and also confident in their product, not attacking anybody, because he admits, like, our mechanics aren't all that deep, but hell, they're really good, man. Like, we poured our heart and soul into this stuff. He's not out there saying, yeah, we don't do everything, but just because gamers are entitled and they think that they deserve all of that stuff. Nothing like that is coming across. He also noted that Saber was able to keep its cost downs at Space Marine 2. Again, another foreign concept in the industry. He told IGN, we don't need to sell 4 million units to make Space Marine 2, a success. There are many games, sadly, especially out of North American developers, the Western gaming industry, where if you don't sell 5 million copies, Square Enix, you are a failure. Yep, softer sales than expected. I mean, what business are we in if you fail? If you sell less than 5 million. There are examples like that. Yeah, Ubisoft, EA, because they're going to be rolling that out when Veilguard drops. Oh, that's going to be so hilarious. We want to be a developer that focuses on core experience. What makes games actually fun? Oh my god, what a breath of fresh air. And then do it really well and make it affordably. Yeah, exactly, because they're actually making new games. This isn't an Until Dawn situation where, we're just remaking a game that's not even 10 years old, or maybe it is, but it's a game that doesn't really need an update. They're not trying to get a made for a modern audience cash grab to cash in on a beleaguered franchise. See Picture A and Exhibit B for examples. They're just out here taking that established fan base that you get for making an installment in an established IP. And you know what? Instead of subverting people's expectations, they just delivered a good game that people are enjoying, and people are enjoying by the tens, and in some cases, hundreds of thousands of instances. So shout out to Saber Interactive for getting it. It's not that difficult. Looking over at you, Sony and Ubisoft and Square Enix. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.